Hi class, I'm your virtual science helper, Miss Jackie, and today we're going to continue talking about the Earth. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Earth's crust. The scientific name for that is the lithosphere. So we looked at our model, and the outer crust is that very thin, brittle layer on the outside of that makes up the outside of our Earth. So we're going to do some simulations because that crust is actually not smooth like it is an egg. Actually, it's made up of a bunch of different plates, so it's actually kind of like cracked. And the plates run into each other. So we're gonna model the plates using these graham crackers. And instead of having the mantle underneath, we're gonna use this molasses, which acts like magma. And as you can see, it's kind of syrupy. We used to put molasses in our oatmeal growing up. But so this molasses is gonna act like the magma that's underneath the Earth's crust. And then our graham crackers are gonna act like the crust. But the plates of the Earth run into each other. And if you notice, now that I've broken this graham cracker, even when it moves, you can tell that little pieces are gonna break off, right? Because it's brittle, just like the rock on the crust of the Earth. So I'm gonna set this on top of the magma, and we're gonna look at what happens at the plate boundaries on the Earth. So if these are two different plates, for instance, one of the main plates is in California. The San Andreas Fault is where two of those major tectonic plates meet up. So if you imagine the crust is just sitting over on top of the mantle, one of the ways that the plates interact with each other, since it's kind of liquidy underneath, is they might have a convergent boundary. So when it's a convergent boundary, that means that they push together. And basically what happens is when they push together, they create, what do you think would happen when they push together, when they converge? When I use this just modeling clay, if you imagine them coming together, what might happen to the Earth? It might fold in, right? Might create some mountains. So when two plates converge, that's called the convergent boundary, and that creates mountains and rifts as the plates come together on top of the mantle. Now there's a second type of plate boundary. So we'll take a new layer of the mantle. I'm gonna break it so it makes the crust, and where the plates meet up, we're gonna place them here. They float, which is pretty cool. So first we had convergent when they come together. Next we have divergent. If the plates diverge away from each other, what do you notice that happens? So when they move away from each other, that magma comes back up and it touches the air. And once it touches the air, it cools and becomes rock. So again, if this was our clay, when it comes apart, that magma comes up, and remember we call it lava when it touches the air. When the magma comes up, that creates new land and sometimes canyons or valleys. So that's the second type of plate boundary. So we have convergent when it comes together, we have divergent when it moves apart, and then my favorite, or the most exciting I would say, is the transform boundary. So again, I'm gonna break my crust, I'm gonna set it in here, and sometimes the plates, when the Earth moves, a transform boundary is when something jars underneath. Maybe it's like some heat rising or there's a bubble. So what happens is it's a transform. And what happens there is you can see there's little pieces of the Earth that broke off. Sometimes a little bit of magma comes up here. I'm gonna grab a paper towel. But when that happens, lava comes up. And what do you think that's like? That's like when there's an earthquake, right? So a transform boundary is when the two plates kind of rub into each other like this, and different stuff can happen. Some can break off, some can come up, and then the magma from the inside can come up like lava. So those are the three different types of plate boundaries. We have, again, convergent, when they come together and form mountains, divergent when they move away from each other, and then transform, which is when the two plates kind of rub against each other. And we're going to talk about the impacts of an earthquake in the next lesson. So that's all for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.